Moment of truth. This car is absolutely stunning. Alrighty guys, today the S3 finally received some well-deserved low. This thing has really been proving itself, and in the previous video we got an exhaust system done and this thing sounds absolutely amazing. We've now officially owned this thing for about 5 months, and in that time we spent a lot of it doing a lot of maintenance because the previous owners really neglected this thing and didn't treat it as well as it probably should have. So I'm very excited to finally get this thing handling really good because it drives really good, and I think it needs some suspension upgrades. So without further ado, let's get this thing up on jack stands and get these coilovers in. S3 back up on jack stands for maybe the 100th time. I swear this thing spends majority of its time on jack stands, but this time for a good reason. Alrighty, well, the particular brand we went for the S3 are some BCs. These are brand new DS series coilovers. These usually come with adjustable camber, but with the suspension setup on these cars with just a single nut on the top instead of it being mounted to the shock tower, there isn't really a good way to make these have camber tops on the top, so I'll probably have to get some aftermarket ones down the road. Basically, these are the most high performance coilovers you can buy before you're spending like 4.5 grand, 5 grand on some proper track spec'd out coilovers. These on the front on the S3, the Golf, the Jettas and everything like that is pretty much all the same setup, except that the sway bar link on the S3s and the all drive models, they attach to the shock instead of onto the control arm. But we have our rubber mounts to go on top, and then we'll have our bearing that sits on top. We'll put the first nut on top, and then the little hats here we'll reuse, and then that holds it up inside the engine bay, and then we put the other nut down. So that's all it really is. Nice and simple. Yeah, I'm pretty excited because this ride height that's currently on the S3 is pretty bad. Whenever I accelerate hard, the rear end sort of squats a lot, bringing up the front end, and then I break traction, which is really not good. So this will lower the center of gravity on the S3 a bit more and make this car handle a whole lot better and be able to actually put the power that it's making onto the ground, because the suspension is a lot stiffer. Let's get these things in. You also have to do the rears as well. We'll get onto that when we've got these in. Rattle gun died the other day.
Gotta do things the hard way now. Fuel cars.
Alright, now that we have our wheel off and we have a nice open area to work with, the first step we need to do is unplugging and unclipping all the sort of sensors, like the ABS sensors, and taking them off the shock, because if we just unbolt the shock with everything attached, we can risk damaging our sensors or breaking our brake lines or straining any of them when the shock and the knuckle is dropped down to take our suspension out. So we definitely don't want to do that. I mean, last time we did suspension on Harley's BMW, our whole knuckle just slammed down, so that definitely wasn't good. But yeah, we have a couple clips here. If you have a look a bit closer, we have a clip here, sort of push clip that holds the brake line in, and there's one over here that holds it onto the chassis, and then we need to take our sway bar link off, and then there's just a single bolt right here that holds it into the knuckle, and then we'll go ahead, drop our knuckle down, unscrew it from the top, and then we should be able to just slide it straight out. So it's really nice and easy and simple. So why is that not coming out? Finally. I had to bend the bracket a little bit. Anyways, brake line is disconnected. Our ABS line is unhooked, but I'll unclip it from the actual brake caliper. Just get like a little clip, or pick at least. And it just pops open, or hang it to the side a bit. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and unbolt our sway bar, which looks like maybe a 16 or a 17 mil. We just need to unbolt it from here. We can keep it on the sway bar and then unbolt it from the knuckle. We'll set the jack underneath the control arm so we can actually control how much it drops down, because we don't want it to just fall straight down onto the ground.
Not again.
And then, yeah, unbolt it from the top, pull the shock out, and then we can compare the new shocks to the old ones. Nothing like some good old nut buster so then our bolts actually come loose and not snap. That'd be great, because I've just noticed that our brake line over here is all rusty and I can't actually move that out of its spot because it's like seized in place. So it's pretty much attached to the bracket and I might just have to leave it like that. We just got to be careful when we drop the suspension down, but I just like swing my hand up, smash into the thing.
Oh, I was kind of waiting for it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank the Lord. Man, I was waiting for it to just go snap and it just falls off. There we go. Alrighty. Nice and greasy. My CV boot's blown, so there's grease everywhere and inside the wheel, which is kind of nasty. How? What the fuck? It's coming down. Definitely not as easy as your E46. I remember when I did this first on my GTI, I was smacking this thing for ages. We'll spray it with some more of the nut buster that's up there. Alrighty, so we've struggled pretty much all afternoon trying to get this shock out, and the issue is that it's not dropping far enough. I know this isn't probably necessary, but I already did it before and I need to get an alignment on this car, so I'm just going to drop the subframe and then we can pull out both sides at the same time. So I'll just drop the subframe down, and then once the subframe's low enough, so all the suspension is going to come down besides the shock, so we should be able to just lift the shocks out straight up. Alrighty. Okay, so we now have the old crusty suspension out. We don't need that anymore. And now we can go ahead and assemble our new coilovers. We'll probably just eye our ride height, so that's the threads here. That's our ride height, so we can adjust that to go further down into the shock or further up. So we'll just compare it to the old suspension and then see how much we want to drop this thing, and then we'll throw it in, bolt it up, and then we can finally get onto the rears. Let's get to it. Nice and torqued. Talk to a couple auger doogers. Alrighty, we've got our shocks ready to go in. We got our mounts, we got our bearings, we've set our preload and our ride height. We just need to bolt these things back up. So we'll go ahead, slide these things back into the knuckles, jack the subframe back up and bolt it in, throw it back inside the shock tower, bolt them down, and that's pretty much it. And then we just got to sort out what our ride height will look like later down the track, because once we got the wheels on and the car's back on the ground, we're not entirely sure we got this first try. I highly doubt we did, but it should be a lot lower than the original setup. I think we're about this much shorter than the factory shocks, but the way that the spring reacts is different as well, so we'll see how it goes. We'll throw this thing in, bolt it up, we got to do the other side. Alright, that's torque down. Torque the spec. Beep, beep, beep. Okay. The best thing about these shocks compared to the factory ones that sort of just have this little bracket and it's all the same size tubing, there's like a reinforcement part where it will stop the shock from going any further down. So I like this about the coilovers. I think there's a lot of flaws to the way that Volkswagen designed this. I don't know, I think they just put more brain energy into everything else besides the suspension, or just try to make it really simple. I'm gonna use some Loctite. I did order some new bolts for the bottom of the shocks because these are stretch bolts, and I've had issues in the past where these come loose, and to say the least, the bolt, when it comes loose, is the last thing you worry about, because your whole suspension is pretty much being held by this one bolt. So if this comes loose, your whole suspension is loose. Ask me how I know.
At least the good thing with this is it can't actually drop out like straight to the bottom.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the coilovers.
Yeah, my old coilovers, it didn't have this extra little bracket thing, so it basically, that bolt came loose and my shock slid down and smashed into my CV and blew. It was horrible. Man, that was terrible. I mean, kind of my fault, to be honest. So, remember when we said this would take like 2 hours? When I said, hey guys, today we're doing shocks, I meant like, today guys, I'm spending all week doing my shocks. This is dumb. I need a break. Nice and tight now. We can tighten it once the suspension has load on it. Right. Perfect. Further that on there. I think that's the strap, boys. A little bit of thread locker on this one. Smack it through. Pretty much cruising now. Perfect. That looks sick. This is going to be slammed, or not slammed at all. Who knows? Alrighty, so a little bit of devastating news. We got all the suspension in the front back together, and it's looking really, really good. I need to just hook up the brake line, but we went ahead and fitted up the wheels to the front. Before we've even lowered the car, we've also tried adjusting the control arm out, but my wheels don't fit back on. So we need a spacer of some sort in the front, so then I can actually fit my wheels back on, drop it back down, so we can actually see what it looks like. So I'm gonna have to either get some spacers in or order them in, and then we can finally get the front on. But whilst we're waiting for those, we might as well get onto the rears and drop them. So I'm gonna go ahead and jack the rear up, and then we can slam the rears. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. One bolt is crazy, and that does your sway bar link in the shock. So we'll go ahead and take this one off, which might be the same size. I doubt it, but
it won't be.
No, it'll never be the same size. We're working on German cars.
So the top bolt is up behind
I think it's
everything.
I think it might be a 16, which is not common on a Volkswagen. Alright, well, we got the old shock out, and now we can put our fancy looking new ones in. This would go on the bottom, yeah? Surely.
I'm gonna go flying, hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so a bit of before and after perspective. This is our new one and our old one. To say the least, I don't even know if this is enough spring, bro. This thing's gonna be slammed. So there's also this sort of little piece on the top that's supposed to go in, but the whole point of this is to make our car low. So I don't care about this. Usually they have an adjustable sort of perch, like the spring that sits on. It usually has like an adjustable part, but for some reason this doesn't, so it's a bit weird. But we'll go ahead, jack it up, get the spring underneath, and then we'll do the other side, and then drop it onto the ground and see what it looks like. It's not really gonna give us a good idea of what it looks like until we get the spacers for the front and put it back on the ground. But I'd like to at least see the rears down on the ground. crusty. You reckon it's gonna be like monster truck?
Yeah. Get a monster truck fit.
Oh, I can't go backwards. Alrighty, so the rear assembly is now together. It actually looks really, really good. I didn't really have any adjustments that I needed to make, or at least yet. I've just left it how it came out of the box. I didn't put that second perch in for the spring. It's just the spring and the shock at the moment, and I have it on the max stiffness, so I can always just adjust it down to my liking. Alrighty. Oh, I really hope this thing's low. Should be. Moment of truth though. We're gonna definitely need some spaces on front and rear though. Alrighty guys, so we've got the rear back onto the ground. It's definitely not low enough yet. I mean, we can always still adjust it way more than it currently is. And we need to wait for those spaces for the front. So until those come, pretty much just leave this thing on jack stands. We'll get the spaces for the rear as well. It's a bit devastating. I was really hoping to get this thing back onto the ground today and get it driving and looking good, and then we can get an alignment. But of course not. It's never that easy, is it? Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next couple of days when these spaces come in. Alrighty guys, it has now been about a week since we've been waiting for these spaces, and we finally got them. We still are waiting on the rear spaces. We'll probably need something like a 30mm to be honest, because it's pretty bad in the rear, but we got our fronts now. We can get the front back down onto the ground and see what this thing looks like. So I'm really excited. Let's get this thing back together. First spacer on. Oh yes, nice and free, just how we need them. All right, let's do the other side. Alrighty, moment of truth. So the car is finally now back on the ground. Before we go ahead and take this thing for a test drive, I wanted to actually sort out the fuse box situation. We recently picked up at the junkyard a new fuse box because that blew up and the radiator fan stopped working. So I'll quickly replace that out and we can take this thing for a test drive with the new coilovers on. Bit of a bumpy ride, but I'll have more time to dial this in, but it feels really good. Let's keep driving. Well, this car has definitely proved itself over the 5 months I've owned this thing. This thing has come a really, really long way. I'm in love with this thing. It looks good, drives good, and it's everything I could have ever wanted from this S3. And sadly, I think this is pretty much where I want to be leaving it for some time. I'm pretty happy with the way that the car handles, the way it drives. I'll need to dial in the suspension a little bit more. It's a bit too stiff and it bounces around a bit too much. The rear needs some spaces and the front could do a little bit more low, but otherwise this thing looks absolutely amazing. I love this thing so much. But yeah, we're gonna finally get on with tackling with the GCI, get that car sorted. I've owned that thing for nearly 4 years and it's still not done, so I'm pretty happy with the way the S3 is. We'll eventually get around to building the motor that is in my shed and make this thing a whole lot faster than it currently is. But until that time, the GCI is gonna get some love. It's gonna have a massive transformation over the next 6 months. I just thought I'd stand back and really appreciate how far this car has really come. It's really proved itself. This thing was not really good at all when I got it, and I think I've made some pretty good effort to make this thing drive how it should have. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this thing. Sadly, that fuse box panel that we got from the junkyard seems to not have fixed the coolant fan situation. I have a feeling it's probably a relay somewhere else, or maybe the temp sensor on the radiator, but the auxiliary water pump isn't working and the fans aren't running either, so we'll have to sort that out in a later video. But other than that, this car is going to remain pretty much how it is. We'll dial in the fitment a little bit more, and I can't wait to see this S3 lined up with the GCI. Other than that though, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more like it. I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.